Oh, good morning. I've got the new tank hooked up anyway. So this is day one with the new tank. We'll see how long it lasts. There's Rocky. That's Rocky there. I don't know what you can see. I'm just moving the phone around here. He's looking. He says, "Oh, here you go again with that." Anyway, um, I'll tell you a story. I think I told this story in a video a long time ago, but there's been a lot of subscribers since then. So I'll tell this story anyway. And, it's kind of a funny story from when I was a kid. Uh, when I was 6 years old, in 1974, in that era, the Watergate hearings in the United States were going on. President Richard Milhouse Nixon was being impeached, basically, and they were looking into all his shady dealings and so on. So there was a big committee set up and so on, and they were having hearings, and there were witnesses coming in and testifying, and evidence was being presented and so on. Well, my dad used to watch that in the evening. When he'd get home, they'd play it on the news and whatnot, and he'd look at it. Anyway, I was in grade 1, and I was learning how to read. So every night after supper, when the dishes were all cleared away and my mother was washing the dishes, my father would go into the next room, into the living room, and he'd sit in his black Naugahyde lazy boy chair, which had a pole lamp on one side of it and an ashtray on a stand. Remember the old stand ashtrays on the other side of it? This was the 1970s. And of course, the living room was carpeted with deep pile gold shag carpeting. Very classy. Anyway, and we had black, dark brown wood paneling on the walls, of course, too. But anyway, I'd be sitting at the kitchen table at the chrome, remember the old chrome kitchen table and chairs? That's what I'd be sitting at there doing my homework. And part of my homework was I had to read out loud from my reader. Well, this reader I had at the time was a reader called Dick and Jane. And it was about a little boy named Dick and a little girl named Jane, and it told the stories of all their various adventures in their town and so on like that. And I think Dick had a dog and, went on like that. Anyway, I'm reading aloud from my reader. My dad's in the other room listening to watching the Watergate hearings. And my mom's doing the dishes, and I'm sitting at the table reading from my Dick and Jane reader. And I'm reading aloud. Well, I come to one line, and the line was, Dick lives in the White House. Well, as soon as I read that, we hear from the other room from my dad, not anymore, he doesn't. you know, that was the... So that was because, of course, they called Richard Nixon Dick, eh? So, Dick lives in the White House. Not anymore, he doesn't. you know. Anyway, my dad was pretty quick-witted, and that was just something I remember from my dad anyway when I was 6 years old. Um, and it was true. Tricky Dicky no longer lived in the White House. He either didn't live there anymore or he was in the process of being evicted. I can't remember now. I think he didn't live there anymore, though. I think that's what it was at that point, but I could be wrong. But he was either out or on his way out in 1974. But yeah, that's the story anyway. That's the story anyway. Dick lives in the White House. Not anymore, he doesn't. That was my dad's contribution. Alrighty. I just thought I'd share that with you. Kind of a funny memory I have from when I was a kid. I'll tell you though, that lazy boy chair, it made a very distinctive sound when you'd put the footrest down. And if my dad was mad, that footrest would come down hard and fast, and that was a sound that terrified me because I knew a beating was coming. Whenever I heard that footrest go down, boom, it was like, oh, you know what? There's a beating coming. So yeah, I didn't like the sound of that footrest coming down hard because I knew what it meant. you know. But yeah, those were different times anyway. But yeah, anyway, that meant I was going to get impeached. Is what it meant. That means my conduct was going to be looked into, and I was going to get impeached. Alrighty, well, that's enough of that for now. We'll talk to you later.